I'm Donna from Evoker, and in today's tutorial we'll be going over the creation of the vest for our character. Okay, we'll start by hiding everything except for the shirt. So the shirt will be the base of our model since the vest sits over the top. And we'll start by just selecting the top faces here. So we're not going to select all of them, we're just going to select some of the top faces where the vest will actually be touching the shirt. So just here, and around the back as well. Okay, once we're happy with our selection, yep, that seems to be okay. We can extrude, so just holding shift and scale out slightly, and making sure that we clone to object, not element. Okay, and applying our push modifier. So since we use this modifier a lot, I'm going to create a button. So I'll do that by going to configure button sets. I'll scroll down to find push, and then I'll just drag and drop onto the button and then apply that. So I'll bring the mesh out a little bit from the base model, and I'll adjust the mesh color just to help differentiate. So a cream color to match the vest, and then I'll just start to adjust these vertices. We can target weld some of these to get rid of them since there's no folds in the actual vest here, and then pulling the verts into shape to create the edge of the vest. So just reshaping some of these edges here. So we'll delete these to get rid of the triangles and make everything poly. So we'll just collapse that as well. So then we'll make everything more poly, and we'll get rid of the polygonal and get rid of the pinching around the poles where those verts were joining, and then just continuing to shape around the chest area to create our vest. Okay, so just making the edge of the vest just by tweaking the verts. Okay, make sure you reference your concept often. So I've got mine to the side, just making sure that I'm getting the shape correct. And then just tweaking around the shape and pulling these down to make it more even, pulling these back. So I might delete that edge there as well, it's not needed anymore, and I'll grab the bottom edges so we can extrude the base of our vest. So just pulling that down, holding shift until the bottom, to where the vest will be resting, so just above the hip. So bring back the belt too to make sure that it's not clipping, and then we can adjust the base of our vest. So just blocking in the shape at the moment. I'm just pulling it out away from the belt. Now I'm going to make the bottom verts here plainer on the Z and rotate slightly to get the dip, so adding a little bit of interest to the bottom of the vest. And then I'll just continue to tweak some of the vertices to create the shape. So just bringing it out a little bit more. And rounding off the bottom. Just moving some of these around a bit, just to make the fall from the chest into the vest a little bit more natural. So just moving around the model constantly and tweaking verts where needed. When we're happy with that, we can apply a symmetry to have a look at the mesh on the overall, and just comparing it against our concept. So I'm just going to bring these edges down a little bit just to create that little dip that she has there. And then just continuing to make sure that I get the shape of the base right, because then it's just a matter of filling in. Okay, once we're happy with that, we can select the ring of edges around here, around the vest, and connect them to add more geometry, and then we can start to tweak these as well. So just pulling them in and making the fall off a little bit smoother. So just adding a little bit more geometry as well, just by the same way, selecting the ring and then hitting connect. So I'm trying to match the edge loops on the horizontal edge loops on the shirt as well. So when we start to skin and animate, it helps. Well, it helps in the skinning process if they're in a similar position, and it'll help prevent clipping when we're animating if they're on the same or similar, in the same or similar areas. Okay, so just continuing to shape by moving the vertices around and adding edges where needed. So there's not going to be any folds in our vest, so this will just be a plain shape. We're just getting the shape right here. So again, just adding where needed and trying to match them to the underlying shirt as much as possible. So just bring them down and making the fall off from the chest down a little bit more. into it smoother. Okay, we can start, maybe apply a turbo smooth now, I think, just so I can see how it's looking. And yeah, the fall off starts to look quite nice, and we're starting to get the nice shape of the vest itself. So it's looking pretty good, I think. I'm just going to shape the inside of the vest a little bit more. So it's just a constant tweaking of it when we model, looking at overall shapes and how they relate to each other, and making sure that everything is looking the way we want it to. So I'm just pulling this in a little bit towards the stomach, yep, just in a little bit more towards the stomach, and then just bringing these into from the side of the breast a little bit more, just to round out the shape. Once we're happy with the base, I'll start to extrude the collar. So I'm just selecting these edges here, so not going all the way down, since the collar falls into the base of the vest. So I'm just tweak these a little bit too while I'm back here, making sure they're back on the on the 0 on the X, they seem to have come off. And then I'm continue to shape the collar. So bring this back up a little bit, so it's higher at the back than it is at the front, and then shaping around the front as well. So just switching to side view to get the fall off that I want. It's a nice smooth curve. And then continuing to adjust in the orthographic view. So just pulling these out a little bit more so I get a nice slope on the collar, so it's not straight up and down. Just going to select this edge here and remove it too, since it's unnecessary, and then I'll just adjust the verts accordingly. So that's starting to look pretty good. Just a few minor tweaks, I think. I'm going to grab these ones now, and we'll extrude the depth or the thickness of the collar. Just moving them into a rough position. Bring this down. So it is thicker at the top than it is at the bottom, so we want it to taper down into the vest nicely. So I'm just going to shape these a little bit more. Okay, just continuing up the collar. Just, yeah, adjusting some of the edges, so bringing these in towards the neck. And zeroing out that vertice on the X. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to start to extrude the back faces of the vest now as well, and then I'll snap them to the shirt. So I had to turn the turbo smooth off on the shirt and the vest to do this, and then we'll turn on. We'll turn off snap here, and just move them roughly into position on it. Yep, that one can have one to snap to, but not all of them will have a vertice to snap to. So when we actually join these, we'll have to cut in the edges, but now we just want to roughly join them. So just bringing the back to the shirt and roughly into roughly where there's already existing geometry, so you want to match it up with the edge loops that are already underneath it. And then just shape it a bit more. Okay, once that's done, we can extrude the thickness of the rest of the vest. So just using a scale this time to extrude the edge, and then moving it down a little bit. Okay, and then just again like we did with the collar, just moving these into position, so not that they're clipping through the shirt, but they're resting on it near an already existing edge. Okay, so just continuing down the vest. So these edges won't actually attach to the shirt, so we still want to try and match them, like line them up, but we don't need to be too strict. We just want to make sure that the thickness is about the same all the way down. Okay, so just turning on X-ray to see the bottom of the vest and then just moving these down into position. So I'm just putting a slight angle on them so they're not flat across the bottom. This helps when creating the normal map and it also adds visual interest. So just tweaking these verts back into place. So pulling them back in. Trying to make the thickness the same all the way around. And zeroing out this one on where the symmetry meets on the X. So just some small changes, but they make a difference to the overall shape. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking, so I'm going to start to fill in some of the holes. So we'll start here by extruding these edges so we can join the collar to the rest of the vest, and we'll join using target weld. We'll just weld these down and that one across to make the triangle. So yep, that looks pretty good. Just a little adjustment there. And now of course we need to extrude up the back of the vest. The inside of the vest, sorry. So that we can't see through it. So we'll just turn off the shirt and the belt for now. Roll that one into the edge there, and then I'll just move these around. So we want to keep some thickness. We don't want them touching. If you have two polygons on top of each other, they can cause what's called stead fighting, so they both try to be visible at the same time. It creates a flickering effect. We definitely don't want that, so you want to keep a little bit of thickness between your polygons. So just moving these down and into position. Okay, once we're happy, we can continue to extrude up and do the same thing again. So welding that vert into the edge there and then just adjusting the rest. So yeah, just trying to maintain the same thickness around the edge of the inside as well, and line them up with its matching vertice on the outside. Okay. Make sure that one's still on 0 on the X. And we'll continue to extrude up. So we're doing this, and so if they decide to animate the vest, that there's geometry behind. So if it comes out and it flicks out, you won't see through the mesh into the world. And then they can add some kind of cloth dynamic, or they can animate that however they wish, or whatever is supported by the engine. So it'll all depend on what the engine is capable of as to how cloth will move. Okay, so I'm just going to extrude up this edge here first, because I'm not quite sure how far up to go on the inside. I'll bring the body back to do that. And just bringing that in just a little bit there, so it'll just join the actual mesh just underneath or around the base of the chest. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll bring back the body now and the shirt, so I can see how much more I need to fill in. I'll fix the smoothing groups first. So just selecting everything and making everything one. I'll then select this ring and convert to polys and change the smoothing group on this in order to get a hard edge. I need to do the same around the base so that it doesn't fold into the top, so you get that nice hard corner. And on the collar, I'll select the top faces and apply a different smoothing group. And on this one down here, I'm going to actually apply both the main vest smoothing group and the top of the collar, so it gets that nice blend. Okay, so now I'm just checking the overall shape again, and we're going to start to fill in the holes that are visible. So you can see that we can see straight through the vest here, and that is pretty much how you will see it in engine. So if you took this into the engine now, you would see through the vest. So I'm just going to select the inside of these edges, and again just extruding up like before, welding the vertices together and then adjusting the edges so that they have the same thickness all the way around and are in the similar position as the one on the outside. Okay, we may have to do this a couple more times. See how we go. So yep, just again. I mean, you can extrude these up as much as you want and then join them all together, but I find it easier just to extrude one at a time and then adjust one at a time. Again, it's just all about how you feel comfortable modelling and what works best for you. And again. maybe just a couple more times. And we'll be done. So these ones will have to come closer to the back, so we'll join them eventually. But for now, just get them into the position. Yeah, just I'll only extrude this one here because we can join those ones at the back there, they'll be fine. We just need to fill this gap here around the breast. Once more up. Just bring these back so they rest on top of the chest. Okay, just hiding the shirt now so we can see the inside. We'll get the select these first faces here, make sure we don't get the front ones. Well, it doesn't matter really if we're getting the front ones because they'll have the same smoothing group. So just applying that smoothing group to them all, so now they've got the same smoothing group, and then just tweaking some of the vertices again now that we can see inside better. Okay, and that I think is our vest done. So yep, just looking at overall together, but there you go. That is the completion of our vest.